but yeah, we can go ahead and get started. So the way that I wanted to sort of go through this was basically go through just general tips for getting good engagement on the AIE, and then looking at specifically groups, and how like successful groups have operated. Um, and then like at the end, we can sort of open it up to questions. And I'm happy to also just talk about the AIE in general. But yeah, I wanted to focus on groups first. So with that, I want to go to this blog post. Everybody can still see my screen, right? So this was one I did a while ago just about how to boost engagement for your posts. And notably, the best thing to do is to post in a group. And the reason that is because when uh, you post in a group, everyone in that group gets like an email notification that you've posted. Whereas if you're just posting like in the activity feed here up top, like that's only going to go to people who well, actually, I think they don't get an email notification because we turned them down a little bit because people were saying they were getting too many. So yeah, that's one good reason to post in a group. Um, and then like the AIE has found like an interesting middle ground between like Facebook and LinkedIn in terms of the culture. Because, like, right, you've got on LinkedIn, you have people being like, I am so thrilled to announce blah, 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 right? And it's very sort of performative, not like in a bad way or anything, but that's just like what the culture is on LinkedIn is like showing off your accomplishments, showing your hot takes or whatever on the industry. Whereas like with Facebook, it's a more casual, more like, and sometimes it can be too casual, obviously. But I think that the AIE fits somewhere in between those because obviously there's still the professional element and that a lot of people still see the website mainly for networking in the aquaculture space. But I think also there's more of a sense of community there. Hey, Dave, good to see you. Um, there's more of a sense of community where I think people feel more comfortable asking questions, for example. So like the last tips here, as far as like getting engagement, have to do with like asking questions as far as, providing context for why you're asking a certain question rather than just like throwing it up in the air. And then also, you can use our formatting tools in the post to like bold posts or bold text. So like for example, we selected this, um, and then you can click down here to show formatting, and so you can make that bold. I'll try and do that with text to highlight the important parts. I think that helps, especially when you're scrolling. You can also enter links down there. If that's too complicated, you can also just type up the post in Microsoft Word or something and copy and paste it, and it'll keep the same formatting. Um, but yeah, so that's a really uh, quick run through about how to get engaging posts on the platform. But if we look at groups specifically at what has worked, so the use of polls, you can do that on our website. You'll see like the poll icon right here. So you can make any post a poll. You can allow people to choose multiple answers, add their own options, etc. I found that this works well because it's, some way for people to participate, but like in a very, minimal effort sort of way. I'm trying to find one that I've done recently. I think it's actually about groups, so it's sort of relevant to what we're talking about. Um, yeah, here we go. So like just asking people what kind of posts they want to see in AIE groups. So like 17 votes, that's pretty decent. Um, and that's like, you'll notice that people didn't react to the post necessarily. So like from that perspective, it seems like it has low engagement, but then you had like 17 people who voted. Um, and then like pictures and videos do better. Honestly, I've found that photos on the AIE do better than videos. I think when I posted this, it was partly based on people saying that they liked videos, and that they wanted to see more videos. But then when I looked at the actual data at when like people had posted and shared a video, they didn't perform as well as with photos. So I think photos, especially, this is just a general social media tip, but having people's faces in the photos makes a huge difference in terms of engagement. People just find it like immediately more relatable. And then similar to the last post, inviting like responses and offering context. Context is always important. Um, and like it depends on what you're posting, of course, but um, yeah, so that covers sort of like my quick like engagement type tips, but did anybody have any questions so far on just posting in general? And no, there's no dumb questions. Yeah. Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Like always, I got always got lots of questions. Um, on the poll,
Hmm.
could that be used um, to set up, let's say, a little a quiz? For instance, many times people want to get continuing education credit of some sort
Mm.
from going through and answering questions after watching a video or reading through material. And we could set up, let's say, a brief quiz that, they have to get, I don't know, 80% correct from the content of whatever it is.
Hmm.
Many times it's always better to very clearly at the beginning of it say these are the learning objectives. Now I'm thinking of actually sort of integrating something with some of the other tools that are on the website.
Right.
Is that feasible?
So to answer your question, we can totally do that. We probably wouldn't use these polls, but we through our like learning management system that we use for our courses,
Mm-hmm.
we can totally do quizzes with those. The only reason why we haven't is just because I don't have the time to create quizzes for each course.
Yeah.
But if like one of y'all or a member wanted to do that, we could totally set that up.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
just for your information, what we do in another program, focusing at continuing education for veterinarians, uh,
Hmm.
actually have the person who puts the presentation or whatever the material is together to provide us with at least 10 questions that
Mm.
directly relate to it. So that could be incorporated.
Yeah,
Something for us to maybe play with, but I think it would be maybe I'll be able to draw more users in. They get
totally.
rewards. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that suggestion, Dave. Um, does anybody else have any other questions? Hi, Emily, by the way. We have a mod in the house. Um, okay, so going forward, so getting into the actual groups. So I wanted to start off with seafood lovers because this is a relatively new group. This is something that I created earlier this week. Let's see how many members it has so far. So just 30 members. So that's pretty small compared to others, but I just wanted to share Mark's post because it got a great response. Once again, this is a good example of like using photos, using faces in one of the photos. Um, and then also using like the bold text up at the top. Um, but I think seafood lovers as a group sort of symbolizes what direction I would like to see AIE groups go. So to give y'all a little bit of background, when the website was first set up, um, it was sort of inspired by this other platform called the Ocean Acidification Information Exchange. And that one was much more research focused. And they had similar features to us with groups and everything. And the idea was is like these researchers would work together in these groups to, produce papers or whatever. So that's sort of how the AIE was set up, was with those kind of groups in mind. It did not pan out that way at all. Those groups didn't really go anywhere, which is fine. But what I have found from managing the website over the past couple of years is that people are really looking for the community in the aquaculture space. And I think what I was saying before about with LinkedIn, how LinkedIn is almost like uh almost overwhelming in how professional it can be. Um, I think like it does not sort of meet that demand in the same way that we can. Um, and so my my push with groups, which is I'm basically rolling out this month, is one, we're archiving old and active groups. So, that I don't want people joining groups that aren't posting anything. Um, but then also we're like creating groups that are more around this angle of being more social and fun. I think like that's what has proven to work. So a good example of this, sort of my first experiment with this sort of idea, is the bad aquaculture jokes group, where people post a lot of like sort of dad joke, bad pun humor. What did one ocean say to the other? Nothing. They just wave. That's the most recent one. Um, but these have gotten like really the posts in this group have gotten really great responses, and I think that sort of like confirms my theory about like that's more of the energy that people are wanting to see on our platform. So that's why I wanted to do something like seafood lovers, that one is broad, right? So it appeals to a larger group, but it also gives people the opportunity, because like with aquaculture, we're mostly focused on the farming aspect, but I think it's great to give people to the opportunity to talk about the end product, right? Which is the whole reason why we're doing aquaculture in the first place most of the time. Um, and so just to give people opportunities to show more of their personality rather than just that like narrow professional scope. Okay, so then moving on to uh, some of our other groups that have been around since the beginning, but have also performed well and been active. So one of those is hatcheries. I honestly cannot tell you why this group has been as popular as it is. My best guess is that hatcheries is such a technical type of work that it just sort of lends itself to an online forum like this. So, for example, like this one was just posted yesterday. Um, Someone saying they're looking to get some tests done to check pesticide and insecticide levels in their saltwater, and people suggested things that they've worked with before. So, like this group very much lends itself to those type of posts. Um, and then here's someone promoting some mini workshops that they're doing that also got a great response. Um, yeah, posting, video. Curious about cleaning method for K tubes. This sort of stuff. So, I think like any group, if y'all are interested in running a group, but also just posting in groups in general, um, it's the questions like technical questions, especially when you provide like the reason why you're asking to make it sort of more relatable. Those do well, and hatcheries is a good example of that, but also um a lot of kudos goes to Nicole, who's the moderator. She, she does do her own posts, but I think she's just like top tier as far as responding quickly to people when they post. And another thing that would be good to mention here is like if you're in a group, or if you're just trying to be helpful but you don't know the answer to something, you can always tag people by using the at symbol. So that's what I did with this post with Nicole in the comments. And once again, that just sends them an email notification that they've been tagged somewhere. So that's a good habit to get into, whether you're a moderator or not. Um, Even if you just have some people who you know are more active on the platform and you want to give your post a little nudge, tagging them and asking for their like feedback on it can be a good way to do that. Um, okay, next up we have aquaculture education. Um, Ethan, who's the mod of this group, he's probably our most long-standing moderator. And actually, I think this might be a good time to bring up that as part of our group moderator, like revitalization or however you want to call it, I've developed sort of a tiered reward list for, or like tiered reward incentives for group moderators. Um, and so I still finalizing it, so I don't want to release all of it right now, probably by the end of the month. But our top tier will be for people who have at least um, posted consistently for a year in their group. And by consistently, I mean like once a month, right? Or that they've shared a certain number of resources, that they will get a free year of World Aquaculture Society membership. So that's something we did in partnership with that organization. For most people, it'll specifically be the United States Aquaculture Society, probably, but we do have international membership. Um, but yeah, so we want to create opportunities to reward people, and Ethan is sort of our, I'm pretty sure the only person who's met that criteria of posting consistently for a year. So he's going to be the first recipient of that reward. So I'll be announcing that later this month. But one of the good habits that Ethan has done is doing a sticky post for the group. And how you do that is just by going to any group and clicking these little three dots on the side. And you can, this one's already pinned, but if it wasn't, it would say pin to group. And that just puts it at the top. So it's the first thing that people see. And you can see with Ethan's post that he gives just sort of a breakdown of what to expect with the group. He talks about the educational subgroups they have as well, because I believe there's a Florida education group, a Connecticut, yeah. Um, and so I think it's something that I would like to see improved. Emily, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this too, but like I would like to be able to provide group moderators with a template for one of these type of posts, because I think like onboarding is super important for people when they're joining a group. Um, that's the other thing about groups is like groups have been consistently our most popular feature since we launched the website. And it's like no matter what the state of our website has been, as far as like how easy the navigation has been or how tricky, people always have managed to find out where the groups are and have joined them. It's just something that people feel very like compelled to do for whatever reason. I think part of it, is like it's very easy, but it's also like an identity thing. You know, you can show like you're part of this group, but then also like just like it's a way to like very easily personalize the website to your interest in aquaculture. Emily, yeah, what do you have to add?
I had a quick question for you because I was
Yeah,
realizing this after I went to a conference and I wanted to invite people to like my specific group or a group relevant to them. Like if I found a shrimp industry person, I'd want to invite them to like a shrimp group, but you have to invite them to the AIE first before you invite them to the group, right? There's no way for me to send like a group invite that they then say okay to and it registers it for the website. Because otherwise I have to do a lot of kind of explaining or context in that little write-in
right.
space, which is
Totally.
possible. And then I have to remember, like, I have to see if they got added or they joined, and then I have to invite them again. And so I think it might kind of, if we can make a smoother process, I don't know if that's
Hmm.
possible, to kind of, like you said, the group is the poll. So, like, if I can make that the center of the invitation, then I think people might be more likely to join because they know what's relevant to them.
Right.
Um, like
Yeah.
I think my example is I met someone that does tilapia genetics and I wanted to
Hmm.
invite them to tilapia group because I thought they'd be perfect to like lend industry expertise. But I had to kind of explain this is what the AIE is. This is how you do the groups. This is the group that'd be relevant for you. It's a baby group, so give it time. Like there was just a lot of context.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, to quickly answer like what I've done, like I was just at RazTech conference. So to invite people to this group, I created a QR code with the group's URL. So like you said, when people go to that, if they're not a member, it'll still prompt them to register. But then once they do register, if they follow that link again, they'll go straight to the group page. But
That's
I
genius. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
no, but I mean, like, you still bring up like good issues about, making it as seamless as possible. And I think I want to like we do some email onboarding right now for people after they sign up, talking. And I do mention groups, but I feel like groups should just be at the very top as like something that people can do immediately when they sign up. Is like, here, join a group. Here's how to go to our directory and browse what groups we have. But yeah, thanks Emily for
Yeah,
bringing
I
that
guess I have
up.
one more question if you don't mind
Yeah,
to add on to that. Is there
yeah,
any way through the system that we can essentially, when we send an invite, recommend them groups? Or
not
that the
yet.
email templates could pull in, like, I don't know how that would work, but basically if I send an invite, I could like check the boxes for the ones I think they might like, and then that would show up in the invite.
Yeah, I mean that that would be great. Yeah, I would love to do that. That would take more work to do that. So like right now we have suggested connections, kind of like, in Facebook suggested friends or whatever like that. We did that through like a plugin that was already built for it, which made it easier. There is not a similar plugin to my knowledge for groups in the same way. So which just means like, we'd have to build it from the ground up, which would just take time. Um, Here's hoping I get an intern soon on that note. Um, but yeah, anyways, I guess yeah, Emily, if you want to, I was going to highlight your group as well. Specifically, I think you've done a good job of creating threads, uh, which we call discussions right now, but I think threads is sort of a better name for it. But yeah, if you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So I actually kind of piggyback off of Ethan Weber's really good way that he was doing resources in discussion groups. And part of what my role is for my job is to kind of curate and inventory aquaculture communication and outreach materials. So honestly, this kind of also came from a selfish place of wanting to make sure that I was like, sometimes you can Google things like podcasts and aquaculture, but you're going to miss things that are maybe smaller, don't have as much PR. And so I wanted to make sure that I was getting comprehensive information. And then I thought, you know what, these are really useful for the industry just to have a list of or, have an inventory of. So when a teacher wants to use a podcast, like it's all right there, they can just go to it. So yeah, that's kind of how it came to be. But basically, I just do discussions around different types of deliverables and then ask people to contribute ones that they've heard of or ones that they've worked on. So you can see like story maps or podcasts. I just saw a TV show Sirens that talked about quail hogging, which is like clamming. So that made me inspired to like ask people where they've seen aquaculture and pop culture. And I learned a lot there. I didn't know there was a whole TV show on salmon wars, basically. Salmon, open ocean
Mhm.
pens, and different dynamics between them. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just kind of a fun but resource heavy way to engage with people. I think it kind of lends itself to what Joe was talking about with the making it kind of more fun. Because to me, media just seems
Mhm.
more fun than research at face value. That's how we spend a lot of our time outside of work is, scrolling, looking at new media. And so that's what I'm trying to do in our group is make it resource intense, but also a little bit fun and playful.
Yeah, and just to go over again, with if you wanted to create a thread in your group, you would click the discussions tab here and then click new discussion to create. And so that will set up the sort of like base thread. So like, yeah, you'll see like with this one that Emily like wrote something, telling people what to reply to in the thread, and then people were able to do that. Um Another thing I sort of wanted to mention with seafood lovers, like why it's gotten such a good response so far, is because I sent like invites to all of my connections for the group. And so, yeah, you can click on the send invites tab and you can click that to filter your connections and then add it if you wanted to write a custom message to all of them. But if I typically don't, I'll just send like because it'll basically just say Joe is inviting you to this group, um and just send it that way. But yeah, having members in the group is key to getting likes because that's how people are going to get notified. And so it takes a little bit of time, but it's you only have to do it once and it's totally worth it. Okay, and then one last thing might be just group messages. In seafood lovers, there hasn't been any group messages yet. Yeah, because it's new. But if you wanted to message group people, uh, you can do that as well. Um, I feel like that's typically more so. I guess one example of that is like for events. Um, like for this is the one we created for Raztech. But we created one for the aquaculture triennial as well. And people used the group messages. Emily and I used it to meet up for lunch one day. But used it for more like that sort of stuff, like people used it to coordinate like a swamp zip lining thing too after the conference, which was fun. Um, but yeah, that's just so y'all know that that's an option. Um, and then I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I did want to open it up. Um, Emily, since you're our mod here, if there was anything that you wanted to bring up or share as far as like what's worked for you or what obstacles you've run into, it's all free reign here. So whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I
Or
think my biggest thing to kind of overcome is that, like, I mean, really normal sense of like the lurkers, right? Like, there's a lot of people, and myself included, that on certain platforms, like, I pretty much lurk. That means I like I'll read resources, I'll see posts, but I might not interact or put myself out there. And so I do really like your idea of having a template for the pinned message because we can make sure
mm,
it's really encouraging about, this really is a place for any questions. You don't have to be intimidated because some of these groups are a little intimidating because you're maybe talking to veterans in the industry. And if you're new, you might feel like, oh, my question's going to be dumb, or what if no one answers? And so we want people to be encouraged to, engage. And so I think part of having this fun content is kind of a good funnel into that, right? Like so making a bad aquaculture joke is kind of easy because even if it's bad, like it's still kind of funny. Like that's the point of it. So
Right.
it's kind of low risk, right? You can just put it out there. Or like I'm not that clever. I didn't come up with any of mine on the top of my head. I used ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot to come up with ones, and then
Sure.
maybe I'd be inspired by one, or I'd pull the one I thought was the best. So you really can interact with low risk, and I want people to kind of understand that and know that. And I found it to be one of the most successful ways for me to network. I started my position 6 months ago, just past that milestone. And I feel like literally like people know who I am because of my name coming up on the
Mm,
AIE. Like I met someone at a conference last week that was like, "Oh, Emily, like I'm this person, like you're in the group, and like I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity or a Disney princess." And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, I don't know. It's cool that people know who I am and they feel comfortable engaging with me because they can see that the way that I post is not super professional. Like, it's not unprofessional
hmm
either, but it's kind of funny with emotes or like GIFs or, it's a little bit more relatable and casual. And so it's cool to meet people where that makes them feel comfortable to come up to me and talk to me. So yeah, I would just say I love working with AA and I'm glad that I started when it was up because it's really kind of been a catalyst for my networking in the industry.
Oh yeah, we're glad to have you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, yeah, people always think that I'm AI until they meet me at a conference, and they're like, "You're real." Um, but yeah, I think what you were saying, Emily, gets to like what I think part of our mission has turned out to be is like just creating almost like a national culture for aquaculture. Um, because that's something that, like we talked about, you don't really see on LinkedIn, um, or Facebook even. Like those platforms are just messier. And like with the AIE, it's more concentrated. But also want to say what's up to Tyler. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Do you have any thoughts as someone who is in the aquaculture technology group?
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Uh, not, I mean, not immediately, and I'm sorry to come in, with such a whimper, but and I am late, so I'm sure if I had been here for the full discussion, I might come in, I might be inspired with some ideas, and I apologize about that. But I do agree with the overall consensus that, the internet world, the social media world is big and messy, and we need culture around aquaculture. Like, um, we are siloed amongst ourselves, even within the aquaculture space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, domestic, like, I think it's one of the most complicated. I mean, the whole ocean space is hard to understand. The aquaculture space, I think, is some of the most difficult to understand. Um, because you have ensconced like traditional use aquaculture, which has policy and maybe some culture, Joe, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
There's money around it, there's an ecosystem. And I'm thinking about finfish, and I'm thinking about hatcheries, and I'm thinking about just, stuff that's existed for a long time. And then you have these kind of emergent ideas, and I think around kelp, blue robotics. We focus a lot on kelp farming and mussels and new start type stuff. And I don't believe we have culture around that. I think it's like a total green field.
Mm-hmm.
And what I
Although
will say, but
I
what
was
I'm going to
just,
say here is that
yeah,
there is a cultural dynamic between the old and the new that I think is a little challenging, but that we need to work on as a community.
yeah, I was going to bring up how I think a good step in that direction was y'all's work with Lucy Bellwood, the illustrator, who did a webinar for us. But she did a great like I think it started out as a pamphlet, right? And then it turned into a poster. Is that right?
So, and I will be this will be all, I hope to have the Aquaculture Information Exchange a buzz with this new
Oh,
poster
nice.
that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
And we will have it available for free, and we hope to distribute it all over the country and all over the world. It's in English. But it's a great like accessible but also incredibly thorough poster, two-sided, on basically the history of kelp farming, what modern kelp farming is, but it goes back to, like the origins of kelp, of using kelp, which go back basically as long as people. So it's like, it's packed full. It's global. It talks about kelp farming in Indonesia and kelp farming in China, and it's just like, it's Lucy just crushed it with that. And um one of the things, I mean, just like, I'm just going to pull back the curtain here. We partnered with Ocean Rainforest. Doug Bush, you guys might know him, over at Ocean Rainforest in Santa Barbara. And so Lucy went out with them on the farm, and she talks about this in her presentation, to learn about like a real modern kelp farm. What's it like? And we shared the poster with Ocean Rainforest just recently, like the past week. And Doug wrote back and he's like, you guys, like, you commissioned this thing with Lucy, the Blue Robotics is like not mentioned. There is one little depiction of an ROV on the kelp farm,
Right,
which
right.
is how they use the ROV, but it's like, it's really not about us. And are you guys cool with that? Are you guys cool, like, not promoting yourself so hard? And I'm like, I want to build culture, actually. Like, our success depends on the success of this community. This community does not need Blue Robotics to be, the technology is a tool. To ignite interest, to ignite the engine of possibility behind kelp farming, is not an ROV sales job or a marine technology sales job. It's really about telling the story of the benefits of kelp, and how it can be used in industry, and generating a buzz, and like creating a culture as a community around that project, so that we feel like we're pulling together. So the answer is no. We don't want to be super promotional. We want this to be like, our goal was that this could be on Wikipedia. It's like, it's neutral. It's a document. It's like a journalism document. So anyway, I'm a little, Joe, to your point, like, I love bringing in artists and storytelling into the aquaculture space. And I think this is true, like, outside of the aquaculture, probably throughout our lives, but like, good storytelling. I do think that we are in a space where, like, culture, authenticity, getting together. I've said this before, Joe, we need to get together as, like, not, it's hard. I know it's expensive. There's the huge trade shows where everybody comes, but like,
Right.
and I know you do a good job of convening us virtually. I'm going to shut up now. I'm just riffing, but I love everybody.
Yeah, I was just in San
Tyler
Diego
out.
for the RasTech conference. I should have hit you up while I was there. I don't know how far away that would be, but yeah, you brought up something that I think is interesting in the context of this webinar, which is just like that we do have, one of the missions of the AIE is to make aquaculture easy to understand for people who are new to the space or outside it. But on the flip side of that is, like, I do think that showing people that you have inside knowledge of aquaculture is also like a great way to engage people on the AIE, because like that also creates community. Um, at one of our recent workshops that this guy Chris Payne did for us about leadership in science. But he was asking, like, he was talking about when you're presenting about aquaculture, like, you don't have to use the most technical terms. And I think, like, that's absolutely true in a lot of contexts. But then I think, like, in a space like the AIE, you can actually lean into that and like use as much jargon as you want, because like those are the people on there who are actually going to understand what you're talking about. Um, I learn new vocab all the time on AIE, like benthos. I did not know what that was. Um, but yeah, so just want to bring that up. But then also, since we'll be wrapping up soon, I wanted to open it up to just questions in general that people had about the platform. Hey, Rhonda, yeah,
Hey, I have a couple questions.
sure.
I joined the AIE maybe when it was first getting going. I was at a Women for
Okay,
Water conference in Sarasota,
nice.
Florida, and they had a thing about AIE and kind of helped, they're trying to get it going. So, I signed up then. I am part of a director of a nonprofit in Sarasota, and we do a whole bunch of stuff, marine debris, youth leadership, but we also have Florida's first lease for restoration purposes. And so we've had that lease for a few years now, and we've been putting native southern hardshell clams on that. So we are a nonprofit. We're essentially community. We have some PhDs and, all kinds of business people on our board. We're community funded. We do have this lease. We've had a guy helping us with that, even though, that's not his specialty, but he is a marine biologist. And so we've been putting clams out there, and I'm hoping my entry into this jump rope of AIE is I am hoping to kind of find an area to be able to bounce some questions off of people. We're going through a little bit of change. That guy's retiring, moving on.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to create sort of a advisory group to help guide us based on clam restoration. It's not commercial. We're just trying to get them to filter the water because I don't know where all you guys are from, but Florida, we got a lot of issues down here. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I'm not, I'm sort of asking for you to point me in the right direction with this platform that I actually haven't used, but I know that I need to start. And is there a place for someone in a nonprofit status to try to gain information and create some relationships that can help guide the work that we're doing? How's that?
Absolutely.
Not too
Yes,
brief,
yeah.
but
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad that you still thought of us after signing up
oh,
so long ago. Yeah.
Oh no, I actually, the weirdest thing is I signed up. I haven't done much. I kind of see the things come across, and I
Hmm.
recommended this to some college professors that I know. I'm like, well, do you know
Great.
about this? So I kind of have been a spokesperson, even though I'm not really using
Thank
it
you.
much.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, word of mouth.
kind of odd, but
Yeah, so I mean, so one thing I will say, just on touching on the culture point again, is and like what distinguishes us from other social media is like I hear that all the time from people. I feel like I make people feel guilty as soon as they see me because they're like, oh, I haven't been posting on the AIE.
mm,
But like truthfully, like that is totally fine. Like obviously I like to see activity on there, but I just feel like as a platform, we're at a much different cadence than these bigger platforms because these bigger platforms are trying to get you addicted to the app. I don't think it's like controversial to say that. Like that's what they're trying to maximize engagement. They don't really care why you're engaging on there. They just want you to be engaging. Um, so like with AIE, it's a completely different mindset where like if someone signs up, finds what they're looking for, and then doesn't come back, I think the website has served its purpose. I think like we've been talking about this greater mission of trying to create culture, which I think like that's also important. That requires people to come back. So we do want to give people reasons to come back. But I just wanted to make that point really quick that like, it shouldn't feel like like something you have to do. It should really, you know, if it's useful, then I like that. That's what I encourage people to use it. But to get specifically to your questions, yes. So there's a few options as far as groups go. So you could create your own group, specifically for the exact issue that you're talking about. However, I mentioned new groups earlier in the call, and one of the groups that I'm thinking about creating, or actually kind of rebranding, because right now we have a growers group. Um, so that's separate from hatcheries. And right now it's just growers, you know, it's just a place for growers, but it doesn't have as much direction. So my thinking was maybe to rebrand it to like growers hotline or growers hopline or helpline, um to make it more clear, because that is how people have been using that group, is to ask questions like the ones that you're talking about. um but like just to frame it better in that way. So like instead of creating your own group, you could just post the question in a group like that. We also have a few Florida, the Florida community is very well represented on the AIE and on this call. Um, but yeah, we have Nicole Kirchhoff on there. She's a bit, she might have been at that Women in the Water conference, but um, yeah, she's responsible for a lot of the Florida groups on there. And then as far as the advisory group that you brought up, and I am happy to help set this up for you, by the way. So like, yeah, we can talk after this and I can help walk you through. Um, but you can also set up a hidden group on the AIE. So only people that you invite will see that group. So there we have other advisory councils on the AIE that use that feature so that they can just have like a private discussion on there. Um, and then just for everyone else's knowledge, we also have private groups. The difference with those is like you can see those in our group directory, but you have to request access to join them. And then public groups. And I do encourage public groups overall, just because, like we're talking about building community, public groups posts on there show up in the main activity feed on the homepage. And so that I think that just encourages, you know, collaboration and cross pollination, all of that good stuff. Does that answer your question, Rhonda?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. When you talk about, well, you could do a new page, it's like, no, 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 no. I am totally maxed out on the stuff I'm trying to do. It
No
needs to
problem.
be easier for me. Just spoon feed me this stuff, you know, but
Yes.
I am I can't put that much energy into it, but I am interested in trying to tap into some people. And Emily, I saw your text about the Sea Grant agents, and I know Angela Collins in particular, who's probably who you're thinking of, I would think. Um, but yeah, perhaps I just have to get on there and look around. But I like the idea of the growers. I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure that you know, we're not commercial, you know, so we're a little bit
Yeah.
different in that
Yeah,
way.
we welcome everybody. Yep.
Hmm. Okay.
So just to show you really quick and show everybody else, like to look at our groups, if you go to this tab at the top here, you can also access it from the side group or the sidebar over here, all
Okay.
groups. But going to this page breaks it down a little easier where you can browse by category.
Okay.
Um, but then you can also, if you just wanted to look at the full directory, and then you can search this group. So like if you did growers, these are all the growers groups that pop up. Um, that's the easiest way. And then you can join them. Right now I'm like the organizer of everything. Okay, yeah. So Women of the Water, there you go. So if you wanted to join this group, you just click that button.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that for public groups, you just automatically get accepted. There's no approval process. And that just means you're going to get email notifications whenever someone posts in there. But
Okay.
so let's say, you know, you've joined a group now and you're on the homepage. You don't want to have to click through to find the group. You can actually do it from uh this status bar. So it defaults to showing public on there. So yeah, once again, this is the status update bar at the top here. So if you wanted to post to a particular group, you click on that, and then you can do post a group, and then you would just search the group that you want. So we were talking about like growers, and then save that, and now that post will show up in growers.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, I'm happy to walk you through everything because it can be a little confusing the first time that you do it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else have any last minute questions as we wrap up here? Anything where you're like, I wish I could do this on the AIE, or I don't know how to do this. Yeah, Dave.
Just a general question. We're getting ready to send out or establish some online surveys trying to determine effectively the U.S. aquatic veterinary workforce, how big it is, who participates. And when I say a veterinary workforce, I don't necessarily only mean veterinarians, but a lot of other people can contribute to that.
With health, yeah.
Um, is this a good platform to put out calls for people? Because there's a lot of veterinarians, we can contact them or other people, but how to try and cover as many distribution sources as possible. Is this a good platform for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, people have used the AIE for
Okay.
sharing their surveys before, definitely. And this
Okay.
sort of brings up a good point about like if I think it would be great to have an animal health group on there.
Mhm.
I just haven't found a moderator for that yet, but like we talked about earlier about sending invites to people to your group.
Mhm.
But if you're looking for people specifically on the AIE who you can invite, who you don't necessarily know, you can go to our membership directory and then use the keyword search to search for people. So like if we, like you
Right.
said, like you're kind of looking at people involved in animal health in general.
Yeah.
So if you type health, that gives you like 42 people, and that just means they've mentioned that keyword in their profile
Yeah.
somewhere. So yeah, what I'll do a lot of the time is like filter that way and then open up a different window and send invites to all these people in this list. And that's like a way to do more like targeted marketing.
Okay.
Um,
Let me contact you, when we get some
yeah,
stuff further, and then, if it's appropriate, we'll do something.
sure. Yeah, always happy to help. Um, And then I guess, yeah, if nobody else has any more questions, I just wanted to show off our new resource library again, something we debuted a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, looking for people to upload more resources. Uh, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
One of the things that I did mean to mention, this is a good source. Make sure that on everything that's put up there, um, at least somebody can identify the author or authors, the date that it was published, and if it comes from another source, some sort of link, because I think this is a wonderful thing for people to refer to. But if you don't know who did it, when it was done, where it was published, etc., it
Right,
becomes useless information.
right.
Thanks.
No, that's a good point. Um, Great. Does anybody have any other last minute questions? Yeah, I appreciate everybody joining. I hope to do more coffee hours like this where we can just talk about AIE stuff, do some little networking on the side too. But yeah, please follow up with me if you want to do anything on the AIE. I'm happy to try and make it happen. Um, especially if you're interested in. Oh wow. Hey Robert, good to see you.
Hello,
Another mod in the
I'm sorry for coming late. I was traveling. Currently, I'm in Vietnam, but I'm so happy to join it. See you all.
what time
I
is it
hope
in
next
Vietnam
time
right now?
It's 10 p.m.
10 p.m. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Almost 12
I know
hours.
it's in the morning on my side. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you making it at the very end of the call. We were just wrapping up, but I will be posting this recording. So I'll send that to you, Robert, when it's up. Because yeah, we did cover some good stuff today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure
Yeah,
meeting you
of
all.
course. Yeah. Thank you for volunteering on the AIE. All right, everybody. Yeah, we'll call it there. But yeah, if you need to get a hold of me, please message me. And have a good rest of your week.